Hey everyone, it's your average chess player here. Today we are gonna look at this game between Ragozin and Sozin from 1937. Why are we looking at a game that is almost 100 years old, you ask? We are gonna learn how to find combinations from this game, and it's more like an instructive game, I would say. We all do like puzzle rush and tactic solver every day, but in those scenarios, you're just given a position where you're told there is a tactic and finding it. But here, we are going to walk through a game and we don't know when the tactic is going to come up, but we're going to look up to the moves that lead up to the tactic while we already know that is the tactic we have to play by just observing what is going on in the position and doing some hypothetical exercises within the board and knowing what kind of moves that we can play. So it's more like a pattern recognition thing, but also how it would probably happen in a real game, rather than just be given a position and trying to find the move. So let's get started. I'm not going to spend too much time on the opening moves itself. We are playing from Black's perspective. I'm gonna like just move fast until move 14 or move 15. That's when the real that's probably my video, so I don't want to go through the opening and like comment on what is the best move here and there. So this is an English opening, four knights variation. This is from 1937, so don't expect like like usual theory that you would see in modern grandmaster games. A lot of things are gonna be weird, so that's why um, we might not really benefit from the opening aspect itself. Like there's a knight on a3, and there are like double pawns on both sides. It's crazy. So we'll take a pause here, and Black just played bishop d7 as this is the 14th move. Now White has to play the 15th move now. We'll just take like 30 seconds to just understand where our pieces stand and what we could potentially do here. Black is kind of developed, like this knight on e5 is pretty. The bishop is there, bishop can get to this diagonal eventually. If this knight is kicked out, knight can still go to g6. Black just has to castle and maybe use this open g file. And if you castle and then bring the other rook to the e file, it's all possible. Queen can someday swing to this side in some fashion if needed. White is yet to castle. White is, I think this is an open file here, so White doesn't want to castle on queen's side, but his pieces right now look really silly. They're all undeveloped, or this knight on a3 is kind of ridiculous. So that is the position that we have here. And here White played in the game played e4. So whenever your opponent makes a move, you're always told like, hey, you should see what threat the opponent's move is making, and we have to like react to it or see how we can do a counter threat or something. What we should also be looking at is what weaknesses do those moves create. And in this case, it weakens this d3 square because the pawn on e2 was controlling d3. Having played e4, this d3 square is weak. Since we have a knight on e5, it is of interest to us. And if you see this knight on d3, if you put a knight on d3, it's going to fork the king and the queen. So that is a nice detail to remember. And right now, the only piece that is covering this d3 square is the bishop. So if this bishop were to be diverted someday from the responsibility of protecting this d3 square, this is a fork. Okay. So first detail that we noticed that we need to remember, I guess. And as we move on, we'll see if this is relevant. So Black in this position, like I said, has like a bunch of moves: bishop c6, triple O, rook g8, all like just developing moves. Black wouldn't want to castle on the king side because the g file is open. So here Black did play bishop c6, and the idea is to just extend the control of the bishop as if your bishop is on b7, like you fianchetto to your bishop, and the e4 pawn is hit. So White plays f3 to protect it. Now, typically when you have these kind of pawn chains, you can look at moves which undermine these pawn chains. So when I say undermine, imagine if I pushed this pawn all the way to h3 and kind of made this pawn move forward, or take this pawn, so this pawn is now unprotected, or even play f5, and if you take here, then these two pawns are kind of exposed, you could say, in a way, and you're like undermining this pawn chain, because right now this is kind of blunting the bishop. One other thing with f3 that we have to notice is that this knight is also covering f3, right? And if, for example, oh, also you have to see that this bishop is also eyeing on f3. It's an x-ray through this pawn. And if, for example, this pawn wasn't there, there could something that can happen on f3. For example, again, all these are not hypothetical situations. I usually kind of try to do this in my games to see what tactics are there if I haven't seen a position like this before. So if, for example, you have a position like this, f3 is soft. And if I play something like knight takes f3 and takes, this rook is hit, right? And why am I showing you all this? If white plays rook g1, which is the only move here, if I had a rook on g8 to control this g1 square, then this rook is trapped. So I would gain 2 pawns and a rook for a knight. If all that happens, like if white takes on f5 and all that. So kind of, again, like things that are there along, like things along this diagonal, which can be enabled by f5 eventually. Maybe not immediately, but eventually. So black in the game now played rook g8. I'm not sure if black had the same ideas for the tactics that I just showed you when he played rook g8, but you kind of get the idea of why this move was played, at least, and not just the open file, but there are some hidden stuff going on here. White, I think, saw this set of tactics that I showed you and played king f2. Here, like triple O might have been a better move, but white played king f2. And we already kind of know what all is going on in this diagonal, but since f3 is now protected, should we still play a move like f5 to undermine this pawn chain? Well, there's nothing wrong in trying that. You could also triple O, but f5 seems to be a good move here, just to like kind of induce white to take here. White can maybe like play other moves, but in this game, white took the pawn here. Okay, so now we have this weak f3 spot, right? Which we want to do something about. We have removed the kind of the blockade that we had with by just giving up a pawn here. Now, how do we continue? Now, this is where all our observations come into convergence, I would say. So this knight, we want this bishop to move away for this fork. Again, king f2 doesn't really help because it's still a fork. So that is still up in the air, which is good, something we remember. And then this f3 square is protected by g2, the g2 pawn. And if this pawn wasn't there, then we could have some potentially have some tactics there. How do we kind of satisfy both these things? Now, a move like rook takes g2, you could consider that, just mainly on the fact, forget about king takes g2 for a second. If bishop g2, knight e2 is a fork. So as simple as that. So we are diverting the bishop successfully. So that satisfies step 1. But also, if king g2, this f3 square is weak. I can play bishop takes f3. Not knight f3 is not going to do much. Bishop f3 skewering. And all this happened in the game, by the way. And then white plays this move king g1, and black just simply castles. This rook is not going anywhere. And if you like here, if you try to play a move like in the game, I think knight c2 was played, but if you try to play something like I don't know, bishop g2 or something, I can still just simply play rook g8. So and start winning more material. So that's not something to worry about. But knight c2 was played in the game. I'll just show the game continuations and then we'll recap what happened here. So rook g8 was played, and then after king f2, black played this nice move, queen to d8, with the threat of coming to h4. And note that like we haven't taken the rook yet in the corner because black is going for checkmate. And after have h4, bishop takes h1, white resigned because a lot of threats are in this position. This queen is going to take on h4, bishop, the rook, and the knight. They're all gonna checkmate the white king, and all these pieces are gonna just sit there and be silly, I would say. Yeah, and that is the combination that I wanted to show you today. It is like it does come out of the blue. If you just, I don't know, if I just showed you this position and asked you to find a combination, you would probably find it. But if this was your game and no one told you if there was a combination or a tactic here, would you find it? Maybe after the lead up to it, you might have found it easier to find the combination in this position. So that is the video. So sacrifice on g2, it's a common theme. If you flip the board, then g7 is the square you would look for, and as white, and see if there are any sacrifices and combinations that go on around that square. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you liked this video, subscribe to the channel if you like content like this. I was doing videos on endgames. I just wanted to try out something new. For people who watch me regularly, leave a comment on how you like videos like this. Like, do you like this format? Do you want to see something else going on here? Just leave a comment so that I know how I can improve. So catch you guys in the next one.